The scent hit first. Kyan pressed his face into the soft curls of his daughter's hair, breathing through his mouth, but it didn't help. The synthetic lavender from the airport diffusers mixed with sweat and recycled air, and beneath it all, beneath everything, was the unmistakable weight of alpha pheromones thick enough to choke on. His son shifted against his other shoulder, tiny fist clenching the fabric of Kyan's hoodie, and he adjusted his grip on both twins, redistributing their weight across his chest and arms. The baggage claim felt too bright, too loud, too open. He kept his eyes down, tracking the black and silver tiles beneath his worn sneakers, counting steps. 32 from the bathroom, 45 to the exit. The twins were still asleep, their synchronized breathing the only thing keeping his heart from splitting his ribcage open. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. He matched their rhythm, forced his lungs to cooperate. Someone's suitcase will squeaked past his left hip. A phone rang somewhere behind him. The overhead announcement crackled about delayed flights and parking validation, but the words distorted into static in his ears. His suppression patch, the one he'd pressed against his neck in the airport bathroom 20 minutes ago, was already failing. He could feel it. The adhesive peeled at the corner, and his skin burned underneath, rejecting the chemicals meant to keep him invisible. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Kyan's daughter made a small sound in her sleep, her cheek warm against his collarbone. He kissed the top of her head without thinking, then immediately regretted the movement. Too visible, too soft. He tucked his chin down further, pulling the hood of his jacket up with one hand while keeping his arm locked around his son. The crowd thickened near Carousel 4. He should have taken the side exit. Should have paid for the taxi pickup instead of trying to save $30. Should have. The air pressure changed. It wasn't something he saw. It was something his body registered before his brain could catch up. A shift in the space around him, the way a room feels different when someone walks in behind you. His spine stiffened. His fingers tightened reflexively around the twins, and his daughter stirred, her tiny hand patting his chest twice before settling again. 3 alphas. He didn't need to look up to know. Their presence carved through the crowd like a blade through water. People stepping aside without realizing why. Conversations dropping mid-sentence. Kyan's throat closed. He turned slightly, angling his body toward the nearest pillar, but his feet wouldn't move fast enough. The twins were too heavy. His legs were too slow. His pulse hammered against his jaw. Footsteps. Expensive shoes on tile. The kind that didn't squeak. The kind that cost more than Kyan's rent. He could smell them now. Cedarwood and black pepper and something sharper. Something that made his hindbrain scream run even though his knees locked in place. The twins' weight anchored him. He couldn't run, couldn't drop them, couldn't do anything except stand there and pray they walked past. The footsteps stopped. Too close. Kyan's breath caught. He stared at the pillar 3 feet in front of him, at the scuff mark near the base, at the chipped paint, at anything except the 3 figures now standing in a loose semicircle around him. His daughter's fingers curled into his hoodie. His son's head lolled against his shoulder, still asleep, still trusting. The scent intensified. Not generic alpha. Not strangers. No. Kyan's stomach dropped. His knees almost buckled. He knew that scent. Knew it the way you know the shape of a scar on your own skin. Cedarwood. Black pepper. And underneath, barely detectable but undeniable, the same combination that used to cling to his sheets, his clothes, his hair. He didn't look up. Couldn't. Kyan. The voice was low, controlled, familiar enough to crack something inside his chest. His daughter woke up. Her eyes blinked open, dark and round and confused, and she looked up at him with the kind of trust that made him want to scream. Kyan's hand moved automatically to the back of her head, cradling her closer, and his son shifted, starting to wake too. He still didn't look up. Kyan, the voice repeated, closer now. Look at me. His jaw tightened. The twins were both awake now, silent but alert, their small bodies tense against his. He could feel eyes on him. Not just the alphas, but other travelers, security personnel, someone with a phone probably recording this whole thing. He forced his chin up. 3 faces, identical down to the sharp cut of their jaws and the cold calculation in their dark eyes. Damon, Malik, Rashid, the triplets. No, not his anything. Not anymore. Damon stood in the center, hands in the pockets of a suit that probably cost more than Kyan's car. Malik to his right, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Rashid on the left, eyes already dropping to the twins in Kyan's arms. Kyan's daughter turned her face into his neck, hiding. His son stared. "It's been 2 years," Damon said. Kyan's throat was dry. His voice came out rough. 3. Malik's eyes narrowed. Rashid's gaze didn't leave the twins. The silence stretched. Airport noise filtered back in. Rolling luggage, crying baby somewhere near the bathrooms, announcement about a gate change, but it all felt distant. Kyan's patch burned. His arms ached. His daughter's heart beat too fast against his chest. Damon took 1 step forward. Kyan took 1 step back. "We need to talk," Damon said. Kyan shook his head. "No. Kyan. No." Malik moved. Just slightly. Just enough to cut off the angle toward the exit. Kyan's pulse spiked. The twins felt it. His daughter whimpered. His son's hand fisted in his hoodie. Rashid spoke for the first time. His voice quieter than his brother's, but somehow worse. "Are they?" "None of your business." Kyan cut him off. The air went sharp. Damon's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. Something that might have been anger or might have been hurt, and Kyan couldn't afford to care which. "Kyan," Damon said again, and this time there was an edge to it. "We're not doing this here. We're not doing this anywhere. Those are our..." "Don't." Kyan's voice cracked. His daughter started crying. Soft, scared. The sound hit him like a fist. He rocked her automatically, murmuring something he didn't even register, and his son joined in, both twins now upset, now loud, now drawing even more attention. Security was looking over. Damon noticed. He raised one hand, calm, controlled, the universal gesture for stand down, and somehow it worked. The security guard hesitated, then turned away. Of course it worked. Alphas like them didn't get questioned. Kyan's hands shook. The twins were crying harder now, and he was losing his grip. On them, on himself, on the situation. He needed to move. Needed to get out. Needed. "Let us help," Malik said. Kyan laughed. Came out bitter and sharp. "Help? Yes. Like you helped before?" Rashid's jaw tightened. Damon's eyes went flat. The twins screamed. And Kyan turned, shouldering past Malik, ignoring the way his scent flared, ignoring the sharp inhale from Rashid, ignoring everything except the exit sign 50 feet away. His legs moved. His arms locked around the twins. His vision tunneled. He made it 10 steps before Damon's hand closed around his wrist. Should Kyan fight back or keep walking? The memory came without permission. Kyan was 17 again, sitting in a clinic that smelled like disinfectant and fake lemon, hands folded in his lap, waiting. The nurse had smiled at him, asked if he was nervous. He'd said no. She'd patted his shoulder and told him it was normal, that lots of Omegas felt anxious before their first heat consultation, that the doctors here were the best. He'd believed her. The twins were still crying. Kyan shushed them on autopilot, swaying slightly even though they were too big to be rocked like infants. His wrist burned where Damon's fingers pressed. Not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to stop him. He didn't pull away, didn't fight. Just stood there with his children sobbing into his neck and his past bleeding into his present. The doctor had been kind too. Older, soft-spoken. She'd explained everything in detail, the hormone treatments, the compatibility testing, the contract options. Kyan had nodded along, signing where she pointed, trusting that someone older and smarter and more experienced knew what was best for him. He'd been so stupid. "Let go," Kyan said. His voice came out flat. Damon's grip loosened but didn't release. "Not until you listen. I don't owe you anything." "That's not..." Damon stopped. "Reset. We're not trying to trap you." Kyan's laugh was ugly. His son hiccuped against his shoulder. the crying tapering off into exhausted whimpers. His daughter had gone quiet too, but her small body still trembled. "You already did that," Kyan said. Malik moved closer. "Not threatening, just present." "That's not fair." "Fair." Kyan finally looked at him. Really looked. Malik's suit was charcoal gray. His tie was probably silk. His cufflinks caught the fluorescent light. Everything about him screamed wealth and control and power. "You want to talk about fair? We didn't know. You didn't ask." The words landed hard. Malik's expression shuddered. Rashid shifted his weight, hands sliding into his pockets, gaze still fixed on the twins. Kyan's daughter peeked out from where she'd hidden her face, her dark eyes glassy with tears. She looked at Rashid, then back at Kyan. Her little hand touched his cheek. "Daddy," she whispered. The airport noise swallowed the word, but all three alphas heard it. Kyan watched their reactions in real time. Damon's fingers twitching against his wrist, Malik's shoulders going rigid, Rashid's breath catching. He pulled his arm free. This time, Damon let him. "They're 2 years old," Kyan said quietly. "You do the math." He didn't wait for a response. Just turned and walked toward the exit, legs shaking, arms aching, head spinning. The twins stayed quiet now, sensing his distress, their silence somehow worse than their crying. The clinic memory wouldn't stop. He'd gone back 3 times. 3 appointments. 3 chances to ask questions he didn't know he was supposed to ask. The hormone treatments made him sick. The compatibility tests hurt. The contract had pages and pages of legal language he'd skimmed because the doctor said it was standard. It wasn't standard. By the time he'd realized what he'd signed, it was too late. His body belonged to the registry. His heats belonged to whoever paid the premium. His choice belonged to everyone except him. The triplets had paid. Kyan pushed through the automatic doors. Cold air hit his face. His daughter tucked herself tighter against him. His son's head rested heavy on his shoulder. He'd met them at a charity gala. Black tie, open bar. He'd been there as arm candy for a client who'd paid extra for an Omega escort. The triplets had been there as guests of honor. Donors, philanthropists, alpha royalty. They'd noticed him immediately. Of course they had. 3 alphas, 1 Omega. The math was simple. What he hadn't known, what he couldn't have known, was that they'd already purchased his contract before they ever said hello. Before they smiled. Before they offered him a drink and asked his name and made him feel like maybe, just maybe, someone actually saw him as more than a designation. They'd owned him before he knew he could be owned. Kyan made it to the taxi line. His arms were numb. The twins were dead weight. He couldn't feel his feet. The cab pulled up. He reached for the door handle. "Kyan, wait." He closed his eyes. "Go away, Rashid. Just..." Rashid's voice was closer than expected. "Just let me help with the bags." "I don't have bags." Silence. Kyan opened the cab door, started maneuvering his daughter into the car seat. She clung to him, making it difficult, and his son started crying again because he didn't want to be separated. "Please," Rashid said. Kyan stopped. His hands shook. His daughter's fingers dug into his hoodie. "What do you want?" "To talk. You had 3 years to talk. You disappeared. I left. Without telling us." Kyan finally looked at him. Rashid's face was carefully blank, but his eyes gave him away. Dark and sharp and desperate for something Kyan couldn't afford to give. "You're right," Kyan said. "I should have told you. I should have said, hey, thanks for the contract violation and the forced bonding attempt and the complete disregard for my autonomy. Really appreciate you treating me like property. See you never." Rashid flinched. Kyan got his daughter into the seat. She cried harder. His son was screaming now. The cab driver looked 2 seconds from kicking them all out. "We didn't know," Rashid said again. "You didn't care to know." "That's not true." "Then why didn't you ask?" Kyan's voice broke. He hated himself for it. "Why didn't any of you ask what I wanted?" Rashid opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "We thought. You thought the contract was enough. You thought paying for access was the same as earning trust. You thought. Kyan stopped. His son was choking on his own tears. He pulled him close, rubbing his back, whispering apologies. It doesn't matter what you thought. He climbed into the cab. Rashid's hand caught the door before it closed. Those are our children, he said. Kyan's heart stopped. The cab driver turned around, suddenly very interested. Kyan's daughter stopped crying. His son hiccuped. The world narrowed to Rashid's face and the implication hanging between them. Prove it, Kyan said. Then he yanked the door shut and told the driver to go. Do the triplets have legal rights to the twins? The hotel room was cheap. Kyan locked the door, threw the deadbolt, and shoved a chair under the handle for good measure. The twins were already asleep on the bed, curled into each other the way they always did, his daughter's hand resting on his son's stomach. He stood there watching them breathe for a full minute before his legs gave out. He sat on the floor. His phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again, and again. On the fourth buzz, he looked. 12 missed calls, 7 texts, all from numbers he'd deleted but still recognized. He turned the phone off. The silence was worse. His patch was completely loose now, adhesive failing, and he peeled it off with shaking fingers. The skin underneath was red and angry. He'd been using the same spot for months. The scar tissue was building up. Eventually, it would stop working altogether. Eventually wasn't today. He pulled a new patch from his bag, pressed it against the other side of his neck, and waited for the familiar burn. It didn't come. Kyan's stomach dropped. He checked the packaging. Expiration date was fine. Seal was intact. He pressed harder, smoothing the edges, but his body rejected it immediately. The patch peeled at the corner. His scent started seeping out. No. He grabbed another one. Same result. Another. 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 By the 6th patch, his hands were shaking so badly he dropped the box. Patches scattered across the cheap carpet. His scent was everywhere now, sweet and sharp and wrong, filling the small room, probably seeping under the door into the hallway. His daughter stirred. Kyan froze. She rolled over, nose wrinkling, then settled again. He needed to get out, needed fresh air, needed. Someone knocked on the door. His heart stopped. 3 knocks. Polite, patient. He didn't move. Kyan. Damon's voice. Muffled through the wood but unmistakable. I know you're in there. Of course he did. Of course they'd followed him. Of course they'd tracked him down like he was still property. Go away, Kyan said. We need to talk. No, we don't. It's about the twins. Kyan's jaw clenched. He looked at his children. Still asleep, still innocent, still unaware that their entire existence was about to become a legal battlefield. I have a lawyer, he lied. Silence. Then, no, you don't. Kyan's breath caught. How did? You're staying in a $70 a night hotel, Damon continued. You paid cash. You don't have bags. Your suppression patches are expired. You're running, Kyan. Not planning. Every word was a scalpel. Kyan stood, walked to the door, didn't open it. What do you want? To help. I don't need your help. Yes, you do. The certainty in Damon's voice made him want to break something. Instead, he pressed his forehead against the door, breathing through his mouth, trying to ignore the way his scent was probably bleeding into the hallway. They're mine, Kyan said quietly. They're ours. You don't get to decide that. Neither do you. Not alone. Kyan's fingers curled into fists. I was alone. For 3 years. Where were you? Looking for you. Liar. We hired investigators. Checked hospitals. Monitored your family. You vanished, Kyan. Completely. Good. Why? The question hung there. Simple. Impossible. Kyan laughed, sharp and bitter. You really don't know. Tell me. No. Kyan. You want to know why I left? His voice rose. The twins shifted on the bed. He forced himself quieter. You want to know why I disappeared? Ask yourself what you did. Ask yourself what you assumed. Ask yourself if you ever, even once, Treated me like a person instead of a purchase. Silence. Long enough that Kyan thought maybe Damon had left. Then, "You're right." Kyan blinked. "We were wrong," Damon said. "All of us." A pause. The sound of a breath being taken and held. "We treated you like you were ours before you chose to be. We assumed the contract meant consent. We thought." Another pause. "It doesn't matter what we thought." "You're right." Kyan's chest tightened. "But those children," Damon continued, voice harder now, "are still ours. Biologically, legally. And you keeping them from us doesn't fix what we did wrong. It just hurts them." "Don't," Kyan hissed. "Don't you dare use them against me." "I'm not. I'm telling you the truth. You can hate us. You can run. You can refuse to ever see us again. But they deserve to know their fathers. You're not their fathers. You're sperm donors. Then let us prove otherwise." Kyan's nails bit into his palms. "How?" "Open the door." "No." "Kyan." "I said no." Movement outside. Footsteps. More than one set. Kyan's pulse spiked. He looked through the peephole. All three of them. Damon in front. Malik and Rashid flanking. They looked exhausted. Suits rumpled. Ties loosened. Hair disheveled. They looked human. He hated that he noticed. "We're not leaving," Malik said. "So you can open the door or we can have this conversation through it. Your choice." Kyan glanced at the twins. Still asleep. Still peaceful. He should call the police. Should threaten a restraining order. Should. His daughter made a sound. Soft. Distressed. She was dreaming. Kyan moved before he thought about it. Sitting on the bed, hand on her back, rubbing small circles until she settled. His son rolled closer, seeking warmth, and Kyan pulled the blanket up over both of them. They looked like him, but they also looked like... No. He stood, walked back to the door, didn't open it. "What do you want?" he asked again. "To see them," Rashid said. Just to see them. Please." The please broke something. Kyan's hand moved to the deadbolt. Hesitated. "If I open this door," he said slowly, "you don't touch them. You don't wake them. You don't make promises you can't keep. You look. That's it." "Okay," Damon said immediately. "And tomorrow you leave us alone." Silence. "Okay," Malik said, but his voice was tight. Kyan's hand shook. He turned the deadbolt, slid the chain, pulled the chair away, opened the door. 3 alphas stood in the hallway, backlit by fluorescent lights, looking at him like he was the only thing in the world that mattered. He stepped aside. They didn't move. "Well," Kyan said. Damon entered first. Slow, careful, eyes going immediately to the bed. His breath caught. Audibly, Malik followed. He made it 2 steps before stopping completely, hand coming up to cover his mouth. Rashid was last. He didn't even make it through the door. Just stood there staring, frozen, eyes wide and wet. Kyan closed the door, locked it. The twins slept on. "There," Malik's voice cracked. He cleared his throat. Tried again. "They're beautiful." Kyan didn't respond. Damon moved closer to the bed. Not touching, just looking. His hands flexed at his sides like he didn't know what to do with them. "What are their names?" he asked. Kyan's throat was tight. "Amara. Zaire." "Which?" "Amara is the girl. Zaire is the boy." Rashid made a sound. Almost a sob. He pressed his hand harder against his mouth. Malik was crying. Silently. Tears tracking down his face while he stared at the twins like they were a miracle. Damon's jaw was clenched so tight it had to hurt. The room smelled like alpha pheromones and omega distress and something else. Something Kyan didn't have a name for. Something that felt like grief and hope tangled together. "How long?" Damon asked quietly. "What? How long did you know?" "Before you left." Kyan's stomach twisted. 6 weeks. "And you didn't tell us?" "No." "Why?" "Because you would have trapped me." Damon turned. His eyes were red. "We wouldn't have." "Yes," Kyan said. "You would have. You would have used them to keep me. To enforce the bond." to make sure I couldn't leave. So I left first. The truth sat between them like broken glass. Amara whimpered. All four of them froze. She rolled over, rubbing her face against the pillow, then settled again. Zaire's hand found hers in his sleep. Rashid was shaking. Full body tremors. Malik grabbed his arm, steadying him, but he looked just as wrecked. We can do better, Damon said. His voice was raw. We will do better. Just give us a chance. Kyan wanted to say no, wanted to kick them out, wanted to pack up the twins and disappear again. But his patches weren't working. His money was running out, and his children deserved more than a life spent running. 1 month, he heard himself say. Damon's head snapped up. 1 month, Kyan repeated. You prove you've changed. You prove you see me as more than a contract. You prove you care about them more than your pride. Then we talk about custody. And if we prove it? Malik asked. Then I don't disappear again. And if we don't? Then you never see us again. Any of us. The silence stretched. Damon's hand twitched toward the bed, toward the twins, then dropped. Deal, he said. Rashid nodded. Malik exhaled. Kyan's knees went weak. He'd just made a deal with the 3 people who'd broken him. The twins slept on, unaware that their lives had just changed forever. Can the triplets really change in 30 days? The apartment they provided was too nice. Kyan stood in the living room, twins clinging to his legs, and tried not to feel bought. Floor-to-ceiling windows, hardwood floors, a kitchen bigger than his last 3 apartments combined. The furniture looked expensive. The art on the walls looked real. It's temporary, Malik had said when he handed over the keys, until we figure out something permanent. Permanent. The word made Kyan's skin crawl. Amara tugged on his jeans. Daddy, hungry. He looked down at her. At Zaire standing next to her, identical brown eyes blinking up at him. They'd been quiet since the hotel. Too quiet. Kids their age were supposed to be loud. Yeah, baby, he said. Let's find the kitchen. It was stocked. Of course it was. Fresh fruit in a bowl on the counter. Milk in the fridge. Bread. Eggs. Juice boxes. Someone had thought of everything. He hated how much that helped. Zaire climbed onto a chair at the kitchen island while Amara explored the cabinets, opening and closing doors with delighted gasps. Kyan pulled out ingredients for grilled cheese, hands moving on autopilot. His phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again. Amara appeared at his elbow. Phone, Daddy. I know, baby. Answer it. Not right now. She frowned. Why? Because the triplets had been texting every hour since last night, checking in, asking questions, offering help, being present in a way that felt suffocating and necessary at the same time. Because Daddy's cooking, he said instead. Amara accepted this, went back to exploring. The grilled cheese burned. Kyan scraped the black parts off, cut the sandwiches into triangles, and served them with apple slices. The twins ate without complaint. They'd learned not to be picky. His phone buzzed a 3rd time. Zaire looked at it, then at Kyan. The misters. Kyan's chest tightened. The misters. That's what the twins called them. Not daddies. Not fathers. The misters. Like they were strangers who happened to exist. Probably, Kyan said. They coming? I don't know. Maybe. I like them, Amara announced through a mouthful of sandwich. Kyan's hand stilled on his own plate. Yeah. Aha. They smell nice. Like Daddy. But different. Zaire nodded. Different nice. Of course. Of course the twins could smell the biological connection. Their instincts knew what Kyan had tried to hide. Eat your lunch, he said quietly. They did. His phone buzzed again. This time he looked. Damon. We'd like to visit this afternoon. 2 p.m. Is that okay? Malik. Bringing food. Do the twins have allergies? Rashid. Please let us know if you need anything. 3 messages. 3 different tones. 3 people trying. Kyan typed back. Fine. 2 p.m. No allergies. We're good. He hit send before he could overthink it. Amara was watching him. The mister's coming? Yeah. Today. In a little bit. She grinned. Zaire smiled too, quieter, but it was there. Kyan's stomach twisted. The twins were already attached. Already comfortable. Already treating this like it was normal. He should have run faster. At exactly 2 p.m., someone knocked. Kyan had spent the last hour cleaning the apartment that was already spotless, dressing the twins in clothes that didn't have stains, and trying to calm his own racing heart. His scent was under control today, the new patches were holding, but barely. He opened the door. All three of them stood there. No suits this time. Jeans. T-shirts. Casual in a way that looked calculated. Damon held a bag from a Thai restaurant. Rashid had a backpack. Malik carried a box. Hi, Damon said. Kyan stepped aside. They entered like they were walking on glass, careful and slow. Amara and Zaire peeked around the corner from the living room, suddenly shy. Hey, Malik said, crouching down to their level. Remember us? Amara nodded. Zaire hid behind his sister. We brought food, Damon said, holding up the bag. And some other stuff, if that's okay. He was asking permission. Kyan blinked. Yeah, it's fine. They moved to the kitchen. Damon unpacked containers of pad thai and spring rolls. Rashid set the backpack on the counter. Malik put the box on the table. The twins approached cautiously. What's in there? Amara asked, pointing at the box. Toys, Malik said. We weren't sure what you liked, so we got a few different things. Amara's eyes went wide. Can we open it? Zaire asked, voice small. Kyan's throat was tight. Ask them, not me. Zaire looked at Rashid. Please. Rashid's face did something complicated. Of course. Go ahead. The twins attacked the box. Stuffed animals. Building blocks. Art supplies. Books. They pulled everything out with gasps and squeals, and Kyan watched the triplets watch them. Expressions ranging from soft Malik to overwhelmed Rashid to carefully controlled Damon. You didn't have to do this, Kyan said. We wanted to, Malik said. It's too much. It's not enough. The words hit different than intended. Kyan looked away, busying himself with getting plates for the food. They ate at the table. The twins chattered about the toys, showing the triplets each item like it was treasure. Damon asked questions. Malik made them laugh. Rashid listened with an intensity that should have been creepy but somehow wasn't. Kyan stayed quiet. After food, the twins built a tower with the blocks. Amara directed. Zaire executed. The triplets sat on the floor with them, following orders, letting themselves be bossed around by toddlers. It was domestic. It was terrifying. Can we talk? Damon asked quietly, standing from the floor. Kyan's pulse spiked. About? Logistics. They moved to the kitchen while Malik and Rashid stayed with the twins. Damon leaned against the counter, arms crossed, looking at Kyan like he was a puzzle to solve. We want to set up a schedule, he said. Visitation. So you know when we're coming. So it's not, he gestured vaguely. Invasive. Okay. We were thinking every other day. A few hours at a time. Build up slowly. Fine. And we'd like to contribute financially. Childcare. Medical. School eventually. Whatever they need. Kyan's jaw clenched. I don't want your money. It's not for you. It's for them. I can provide for them. We know. But you shouldn't have to do it alone. I've been doing it alone for 3 years. You shouldn't have been. The truth of it stung. Kyan looked away, focusing on the twins in the living room. Amara was trying to stack a block on Rashid's head while Zaire laughed. We also want to do a paternity test, Damon said carefully. Kyan's stomach dropped. Why? Because if we're going to do this right, we need to know for sure. Legally. You already know. Yes, but you want proof. Kyan's voice went flat. You want documentation. You want leverage. That's not. Isn't it? Damon's jaw tightened. It's to protect them. If something happens to you, if Nothing's going to happen to me. You don't know that. Kyan's hands curled into fists. He wanted to argue, wanted to refuse, wanted to kick them all out and disappear again. But Damon was right. He hated that Damon was right. Fine, he said. But I want a lawyer present when we do it. We'll pay for the lawyer. No, I'll find my own. Damon studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Okay. From the living room, Amara shrieked with laughter. Zaire's voice rose in protest. Malik was making monster noises. Sounded like a family. Kyan's chest ached. 1 month, he said quietly. You have 1 month to prove this isn't just about ownership. It's not. Prove it. Damon held his gaze. We will. The conviction in his voice should have been reassuring. Instead, it felt like a promise Kyan wasn't ready to believe. What happens when the paternity results come back? The lawyer's office smelled like old coffee and leather. Kyan sat in a chair across from a woman named Simone, who looked at him like she'd seen this story before. Sharp suit. Sharper eyes. She'd listened to his explanation without interrupting, taking notes in precise handwriting. So let me make sure I understand, she said, setting down her pen. You were under contract with a private Omega registry. The triplets purchased exclusive access rights. You conceived during that contract period. You left before telling them. You've been off-grid for 3 years. Now they've found you, they want paternity testing, and you're worried about custody. Kyan nodded. Do you have a copy of the original contract? No. Do you remember what it said? His throat was dry. Some of it. Was there a reproductive clause? Kyan's hands clenched in his lap. Yes. What did it specify? That he forced the words out. Any children conceived during the contract term would be legally recognized as belonging to all parties involved. Simone's expression didn't change. And you signed this willingly? I was 17. I didn't. He stopped. Started again. I thought it was standard. The doctor said it was standard. It's not. I know that now. She leaned back in her chair. The good news is that coercive contracts signed by minors can often be challenged. The bad news is that if they can prove the twins are biologically theirs and that the contract was active during conception, they have a strong case for shared custody. Kyan's stomach twisted. What if I fight it? You could, but it would be expensive, long, and traumatic for the children. What if I run? Then you're in violation of custody agreements that don't exist yet, and when they find you, and they will find you, you lose all leverage. He already knew this, had known it since the airport, but hearing it out loud made it real. What do I do? He asked quietly. Simone's expression softened. Just slightly. You establish paternity voluntarily. You negotiate a custody arrangement before they force one through the courts. You document everything, and you pray they're serious about co-parenting instead of ownership. And if they're not, then we fight, and we win. The certainty in her voice was almost convincing. The paternity test was scheduled for the following Tuesday. The triplets arrived at the apartment at 9 a.m. sharp. Clinical, professional. They'd brought their own medical team. A nurse who smiled too much and a technician who didn't smile at all. Amara and Zaire didn't understand what was happening. Just a little poke, the nurse said, kneeling down with a swab. Like when you got your shots. Amara's face crumpled. Zaire hid behind Kyan. It won't hurt, Rashid said quietly. He was the one who'd been spending the most time with them over the past week. Reading stories, playing games, learning their rhythms. I promise. You first, Amara said, pointing at him. Rashid blinked, then nodded. He held out his hand. Let the nurse swab the inside of his cheek. Made a silly face after. See? Easy. Amara watched, considered, then held out her own hand. The nurse swabbed her cheek. Then Zaire's. Then Kyan's. Took 3 minutes total. The results would take 3 days. What now? Kyan asked after the medical team left. Now we wait, Damon said. But waiting felt like drowning. The triplets kept their schedule. Every other day. 3 hours at a time. Damon brought groceries and cooked meals that were too elaborate for toddlers, but that Amara and Zaire ate anyway. Malik took them to the park and pushed them on swings until they screamed with laughter. Rashid read them stories in voices that made them beg for one more chapter. They were trying. Kyan watched from the edges, waiting for the mask to slip, waiting for the control to resurface, waiting for proof that this was still about ownership. It didn't come. Instead, Malik asked him what kind of preschool he wanted for the twins. Damon handed him a credit card for emergencies and didn't ask for receipts. Rashid found a pediatrician who specialized in Omega children and set up appointments without being asked. They were dismantling his defenses brick by brick. And Kyan hated how much he wanted to let them. On day 12, Simone called. "The results are in," she said. "Do you want me to open them? Or do you want to be there?" Kyan's heart hammered. "Be there. I'll set up a meeting. You, me, them, and their legal team. Tomorrow at 2. Okay. Kyan. Yeah. No matter what those results say, you're still their parent. Remember that." He hung up, stared at his phone. The twins were napping in their room, curled together like always. He walked to their door, watching them breathe, trying to memorize this moment before everything changed. The meeting room was too cold. Kyan sat next to Simone, hands folded on the table. The triplets sat across from them, flanked by 2 lawyers in matching suits. Everyone had paperwork. Everyone had strategy. Simone opened the envelope, read silently, looked up. "Paternity is confirmed," she said. "All 3 respondents share genetic markers with both children." The room went still. Malik's breath caught. Damon's hands flattened on the table. Rashid closed his eyes. Kyan felt nothing, then everything. "We'd like to propose a custody arrangement," one of the triplets' lawyers said, sliding a document across the table. Simone picked it up. "Read." Her expression went hard. "This is a joke, right?" The lawyer's face remained neutral. "It's a starting point. You're asking for primary custody with supervised visitation for my client. Given the circumstances." "Given the circumstances," Simone cut in, "your clients violated a contract by failing to disclose reproductive clauses to a minor. They coerced conception. They have no moral or legal ground for primary custody. They have biological. So does he. And he's been their sole caregiver for 3 years." The room erupted into legal speak. Precedents and clauses and arguments that blurred together. Kyan stopped listening. He looked at the triplets. Damon's jaw was clenched. Malik looked sick. Rashid was staring at the table like he wanted it to swallow him. "Stop," Kyan said. Everyone stopped. "Stop," he repeated louder. He looked at Damon. "Is this what you want? Primary custody? Taking them from me?" Damon's throat worked. "No." "Then tell your lawyers to rewrite it." "Kyan, tell them." Damon looked at his legal team. "Rewrite it. 50-50. Joint custody. Equal time. No primary." The lawyers looked like he'd slapped them. "That's not advisable." "I don't care. Do it." Malik nodded. "Agreed." Rashid's voice was rough. "Agreed." Simone's eyebrows rose. She looked at Kyan. He nodded. "Then we have terms to negotiate," she said. Took 4 hours. 4 hours of splitting holidays and defining boundaries and establishing schedules. 4 hours of lawyers arguing while Kyan and the triplets sat silent. By the end, they had a document. Joint legal custody. Shared physical custody. Flexible visitation. Financial support without strings. It looked like freedom. Felt like a cage with better bars. "Sign here," Simone said, pointing. Kyan's hand shook. He signed. Damon signed. Malik signed. Rashid signed. The lawyers witnessed. It was done. "Congratulations," one of the lawyers said. "You're officially co-parents." Kyan wanted to throw up. Instead, he stood, shook Simone's hand, thanked her. The triplets walked him out. They stood in the parking lot, 5 people who just legally bound themselves together, and nobody knew what to say. Finally, Malik spoke. We meant it. About doing better. I know, Kyan said. Do you? Rashid asked. Because it feels like you're waiting for us to fail. Kyan looked at him. At all of them. I am. The honesty landed hard. Fair, Damon said quietly. But I'm also, Kyan stopped. Tried to find words. I'm also hoping you don't. Something shifted in the air between them. We won't, Malik said. You don't know that. We do. Kyan wanted to believe them. He was terrified to believe them. The twins want pizza tonight, he said instead. You're welcome to come, if you want. It was the first time he'd invited them without being asked. All three of them looked at him like he'd offered the world. Yeah, Damon said. We want. But that night, after pizza and laughter and bedtime stories, after the triplets left and the twins were asleep, Kyan sat alone in the dark and realized the first irreversible step had already been taken. He'd let them in. Not all the way, not completely, but enough that when this fell apart, and part of him still believed it would, it was going to destroy more than just him. It was going to destroy them all. Will Kyan's worst fear come true? Or is real change possible? The flash drive felt heavy in Kyan's pocket. He stood in the bathroom, door locked, twins watching cartoons in the living room. His hands shook as he pulled it out, staring at the small piece of plastic that contained 3 years of documentation. Clinic records, contract loopholes, consent forms that weren't really consent, names, dates, patterns. He'd started collecting evidence the day he found out he was pregnant. Not for revenge, not for money, for protection. But protection had turned into something else. The files on this drive could shut down the registry that had sold him, could expose the doctors who'd lied, could prevent other 17-year-olds from signing away their autonomy because someone in a white coat smiled and said it was standard. His phone buzzed. Damon's name lit up the screen. Coming by at 4 with Malik and Rashid. Amara requested mac and cheese. Kyan typed back, okay. Then he opened his laptop, logged into an encrypted email, attached the files, typed an address he'd memorized months ago, a journalist who specialized in Omega rights violations. His finger hovered over send. The twins laughed at something on TV. Bright, innocent, unaware that their father was about to blow up the system that had created them. He pressed send. The email disappeared. Kyan's breath stopped. His heart hammered. The laptop screen showed the sent folder. One message. Irreversible. He closed the computer, walked back to the living room on legs that didn't feel attached to his body. Amara looked up. Daddy okay? Yeah, baby. I'm okay. But he wasn't, because he'd just started something he couldn't stop. And when the triplets found out, when everyone found out, there would be no going back. 3 days later, the first article dropped. Kyan was feeding the twins breakfast when his phone exploded. Texts, calls, emails, all from numbers he didn't recognize. He opened the news app with shaking hands. The headline made his stomach drop. Private Omega registry under investigation for coercive contracts and minor exploitation. The article didn't mention his name, didn't mention the twins, but it mentioned the clinic, the doctors, the contract structure. It mentioned everything. His phone rang. Simone. Did you do this? She asked without preamble. Yes. Are you insane? They're going to know it was you. I know. Kyan. It had to be done. Silence. Then, you should have told me. I could have protected you legally. This isn't about protection. It's about prevention. She exhaled. The triplets are going to lose their minds. I know. And you're okay with that? Was he? Kyan looked at Amara and Zaire, happily eating cereal, unaware that their world was about to shift again. I have to be, he said. Damon showed up 2 hours later. No text, no call. Just pounding on the door hard enough to make the twins jump. Kyan opened it. Damon's face was a storm. Did you do this? Yes. Do you have any idea what you've done? Yes. Malik and Rashid appeared behind him, both looking equally wrecked. Malik's jaw was clenched. Rashid's hands were fisted at his sides. "Can we come in?" Malik asked tightly. Kyan stepped aside. They entered. The twins ran to them immediately, Amara to Rashid, Zaire to Malik. Damon's expression cracked for a moment, looking at his children, before hardening again. "Living room," he said to his brothers. "Now." They went. The twins followed, confused by the tension. "Stay with Uncle Malik and Uncle Rashid," Kyan said quietly. "Daddy needs to talk to Damon." Amara's face scrunched. "Why you mad?" "We're not mad, baby. Just talking." She didn't believe him. Neither did Zaire. But they stayed. Kyan and Damon moved to the kitchen. "Explain," Damon said. "I exposed a corrupt system. You exposed us. Our connection to that registry. Our purchase of your contract. I didn't use names. You think that matters? Investigators will connect the dots. Media will dig. And when they find out we have children with you." He stopped. "You didn't think this through." "I thought it through for 3 years. Damon's eyes flashed. "This isn't protection. This is sabotage. This is justice." "For who?" "You? Because it's sure as hell not for them." He pointed toward the living room where the twins were. Kyan's chest tightened. "This is exactly for them. So no one else goes through what I did. Noble. Except you just painted a target on all of us. The target was always there. I just made it visible." Damon stepped closer. Not threatening, just intense. "You should have told us. We could have helped. We have resources, lawyers, influence. I don't want your influence. I want change. You can't have one without the other. Watch me." They stared at each other. The kitchen felt too small, too hot. From the living room, Zaire called out, "Daddy? Damon? You fighting?" Both of them froze. Kyan called back, "No, buddy. Just talking loud. Come play." Damon's expression shifted, softened. "Yeah, we're coming." They walked back to the living room, sat on the floor with the twins, built blocks, read stories, pretended everything was normal. But Kyan could feel it. The shift, the fracture. He'd made his choice. And now he had to live with the consequences. What will the investigation uncover about the triplets? The auditors came on a Thursday. Kyan heard about it through Simone, who heard about it through legal channels, who heard about it through someone at the registry. Financial records, contract archives, employee testimony. The triplets' business empire was being dissected. "They're looking for patterns," Simone said over the phone. "Other omegas, other contracts. Anything that suggests systematic exploitation. Will they find it? I don't know. But even if they don't, the scrutiny alone will damage their reputation." Kyan's stomach twisted. "That's not what I wanted." "Then what did you want?" He didn't have an answer. The triplets stopped coming by. Not completely, but the every other day schedule became every 3 days. Then every 4. The texts got shorter. The calls got rarer. Amara noticed first. "Where the misters? They're busy, baby." "Busy with what?" "Work stuff. They don't like us no more?" Kyan's heart cracked. No, they love you. They're just..." He stopped. "How did you explain systemic investigation to a 2-year-old? "They'll come see you soon." But soon kept stretching. Zaire stopped asking. Just got quieter. More withdrawn. He'd started sleeping with the stuffed animal Rashid had given him, clutching it like a lifeline. Kyan wanted to call them. Wanted to demand they show up. Wanted to scream that this wasn't about the twins. But he'd caused this. So he stayed silent. On day 9, Malik showed up alone. He looked exhausted. Suit wrinkled. Hair uncombed. Eyes red. "Can I see them?" he asked. "Of course." The twins exploded with joy. Jumped on him. Tackled him. Shouted questions and demands and mistyous. Malik held them both. Face buried in their hair. Shoulders shaking. Kyan turned away. Gave them privacy. An hour later, after the twins were down for a nap, Malik found him in the kitchen. "We're losing clients," he said quietly. "Investors are pulling out. Board members are resigning. Kyan's hands stilled on the dish he was washing. I'm sorry. Are you? He looked at Malik. For the fallout on you three? Yes. For exposing the system? No. Malik's jaw worked. You could have warned us. Would you have let me do it? Silence. Exactly, Kyan said. We're not the enemy, Kyan. You benefited from the system. That makes you complicit. We didn't know. You didn't ask. There's a difference. Malik's expression cracked. You're right. We should have asked. Should have questioned. Should have. He stopped. But we're paying for it now. All of us. Good. Good. Malik's voice rose. Our empire is crumbling. Our reputation is destroyed. Our ability to provide for those kids is being threatened. And you think that's good? I think accountability is good. Even if it hurts them? He pointed toward the twins' room. Kyan's breath caught. They'll survive. Will they? Or will they just learn that their father values revenge over their stability? The words hit like a fist. Get out, Kyan said quietly. Kyan, get out. Malik stared at him for a long moment, then nodded, walked to the twins' room, kissed them both goodbye, left without another word. The door closed. Kyan stood in the kitchen, hands shaking, trying to convince himself he'd done the right thing. He wasn't sure he believed it anymore. Is Kyan protecting his children or destroying their future? The hearing was public. Kyan sat in the back of the courtroom, hood up, trying to be invisible. Simone had advised against coming, said it would make things worse. He came anyway. The registry's CEO sat at the defendant's table, flanked by lawyers. The prosecution presented evidence. Files, contracts, testimony. Omegas who'd been coerced. Minors who'd been exploited. Patterns spanning decades. Kyan's documentation had started it. But it wasn't just his story anymore. It was hundreds of stories. The courtroom was packed. Media, activists, survivors. Someone 3 rows ahead was crying. Someone else was recording on their phone. Then the prosecution called their final witness. Dr. Lorraine Chen. Kyan's blood went cold. The doctor who'd smiled at him. Who'd told him it was standard. Who'd made him sign away his future while telling him it was protection. She took the stand. Swore to tell the truth. The prosecutor approached. Dr. Chen, how many Omega minors did you process through the registry system? I don't have an exact number. Estimate. She shifted. Maybe 200. Over 15 years. And did you inform these minors of their reproductive rights? The contracts covered. Did you inform them explicitly that they were signing away parental autonomy? Silence. Dr. Chen. The language was in the contracts. That's not what I asked. More silence. Did you ever tell a 17-year-old Omega that signing your contract meant their children would legally belong to whoever purchased access to them? Dr. Chen's face went pale. Not in those words. What words did you use? I told them it was standard, that it protected everyone involved. Did you tell them they could refuse? They could have refused to sign. Did you tell them that? It was implied. Implied. The prosecutor's voice went sharp. You allowed children to sign away their futures based on implications? Dr. Chen's lawyer objected. The judge sustained. But the damage was done. Kyan watched her face crumble. Watched her realize she'd destroyed lives while thinking she was helping. He felt nothing. No satisfaction. No vindication. Just emptiness. The verdict came 3 days later. Guilty on all counts. The registry was dissolved. Assets frozen. Executives facing prison time. The news exploded. Social media went viral. Hashtag Omegarights trended worldwide. Kyan's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. But the only call he answered was from Damon. You watching this? Damon asked. Yeah. You won. Nobody won. Kyan. People's lives were ruined, Damon. Including mine. This isn't winning. It's just ending. Silence on the other end. Then, was it worth it? Kyan looked at the twins. They were playing with blocks, oblivious to the fact that their existence had just changed legal precedent. "Ask me in 10 years, he said. That night, Rashid showed up. Just him. No Damon. No Malik. "Can we talk?" he asked. They sat on the couch while the twins slept. Rashid looked at his hands. At the floor. Anywhere but at Kyan. "We knew," he said finally. Kyan's stomach dropped. "What?" "Not everything. Not the details. But we knew the contracts were questionable. We knew the registry exploited vulnerabilities. We knew." He finally looked up. "And we used it anyway. Why are you telling me this?" "Because you asked if this was about punishment." Rashid's eyes were wet. "And I need you to know it should be. We deserve every consequence. Every loss. Every piece of our empire that falls apart." Kyan's throat was tight. "Rashid, you were right. About all of it. We didn't ask. Didn't question. Didn't care as long as we got what we wanted." His voice cracked. "We treated you like property. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." The apology sat between them. Real. Too late. "I can't forgive you," Kyan said quietly. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. I know. But I'm not trying to destroy you. I know that too." Rashid wiped his eyes. "The twins. Can we still see them? Even if you hate us?" Kyan looked at him. At this alpha who'd read bedtime stories and learned their favorite foods and was falling apart because he finally understood what he'd done. "I don't hate you," Kyan said. "I hate what you did. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yeah, because I still want you in their lives. He stopped. Just not like before. Not as owners. As parents." Rashid's breath shuddered. "We can do that. Can you? We have to. Will forgiveness ever be possible?" The money disappeared first. Not all of it, but enough that Kyan noticed when the automatic deposit for child support didn't come. Then the apartment building sent a notice about the rent. Then the utilities. He called Damon. "We're liquidating," Damon said. His voice was flat. "Court orders. Asset seizure. We're trying to protect what we can." "For how long?" "I don't know." Kyan's chest tightened. "What about the twins?" "We'll figure it out." But figuring it out meant Kyan moving out of the nice apartment. Meant finding a cheaper place. Meant going back to budgeting every dollar and choosing between groceries and heat. The twins didn't complain. They never did. But Amara asked why they had to share a bedroom now. And Zaire asked why they couldn't have the fancy juice boxes anymore. And Kyan had to explain that sometimes things change. The triplets kept coming. Even when they lost the company. Even when their assets were frozen. Even when they had to sell the cars and the penthouse and move into a regular apartment that actually looked lived in. They showed up every week. Played with the twins. Helped with homework. Stayed for dinner even though Kyan couldn't afford to feed 5 people on his budget. They brought groceries. Never asked for thanks. Just showed up and helped and left. Felt different than before. Less like obligation. More like choice. 6 months after the verdict, Kyan took the twins to the park. The triplets met them there. No plan. Just coincidence. Or maybe not. Amara ran to Malik. Zaire to Rashid. They'd stopped calling them the Misters somewhere along the way. Now they were just Malik and Rashid and Damon. Family without the label. Damon sat next to Kyan on the bench. "How are you holding up?" he asked. "Fine." "Liar." Kyan almost smiled. "Okay, not fine. But surviving. That's something." They watched the twins play. Watched Malik push Amara on the swing. Watched Rashid help Zaire across the monkey bars. "I'm moving," Kyan said suddenly. Damon's head turned. "What?" "Out of state. There's a job opportunity. Better pay. Cheaper living. A fresh start." "When?" "End of the month." Damon's jaw clenched. "And the twins?" "Come with me. Obviously." "And us?" Kyan looked at him. "What about you?" "Do we?" Damon stopped. Started again. "Do we get to stay in their lives? Do you want to?" "Of course we want to. Even if it's harder? Even if it's video calls and holiday visits and not seeing them every week." Damon's expression was raw. Even then, Kyan nodded slowly. Okay. Okay. Yeah, you're their fathers. Distance doesn't change that. Damon's breath shuddered. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just, Kyan looked at the twins. Just keep showing up. Even when it's hard. We will. And somehow Kyan believed him. The last conversation happened the night before Kyan left. Rashid knocked on the door at midnight. Alone. I wanted to say goodbye, he said. Properly. They sat on the floor of the empty apartment. All the boxes were packed. The twins were asleep in the car already, bundled in blankets. Do you forgive us? Rashid asked. Kyan was quiet for a long time. I don't know. Fair. But I don't hate you anymore. That's something. Rashid's eyes were wet. Will you tell them? When they're older. About what we did. Probably. Will you tell them we changed? If you keep changing, yeah. Rashid nodded. Wiped his face. I hope you find peace. Wherever you're going. I hope you find it too. They stood. Hugged. It was awkward and painful and real. Then Kyan left. Drove away from the city and the memories and the men who'd broken him and tried to rebuild him. He didn't look back. Can broken trust ever fully heal? The house was small. 1 story. 3 bedrooms. A yard with grass that needed mowing. Nothing fancy. Nothing expensive. But it was theirs. Kyan stood in the kitchen, watching the twins play in the backyard through the window. They were 4 now. Taller. Louder. More themselves. Amara was making up rules to a game only she understood. Zaire followed along, patient and steady, the way he always did. They looked happy. Kyan's phone buzzed. A video call from Damon. He answered. All 3 of them appeared on screen. They were in their new apartment, the one they'd moved into after losing everything. It was modest, normal, human. Hey, Damon said. How's the new place? Good. Quiet. The twins settling in? Yeah. They made friends with the neighbor's kid already. Malik smiled. Of course they did. We miss them, Rashid said quietly. They miss you too. It was true. The twins talked about them constantly. Asked when they could visit. Counted down days on the calendar. We'll be there next month, Damon said. For Amara and Zaire's birthday. They're already planning the party. Oh no. Kyan almost laughed. Oh yes. Hope you like dinosaurs and princesses. We'll manage. They talked for another 20 minutes. About nothing. About everything. About the twin school and the triplets' new jobs and the weather. It was normal. It was healing. When they hung up, Kyan stood there for a moment, phone in hand, looking at the picture on his lock screen. All 7 of them at the park, messy and imperfect and trying. The past hadn't disappeared. But it didn't own him anymore. He walked outside, sat on the porch steps, watched his children play. Amara noticed him, ran over. Daddy, come play. In a minute, baby. Now. Zaire appeared next to her. Please, Daddy. He couldn't say no to them. Never could. He stood. Let them pull him into the yard. Into their game with impossible rules and endless imagination. And for the first time in years, Kyan felt like he could breathe. Not because everything was perfect. It wasn't. Not because the wounds had healed. They hadn't. But because he'd chosen this. This life. This space. This version of family that didn't look like anything he'd expected but somehow felt right. The triplets would visit. The twins would grow. The past would exist. But so would the future. And this time it belonged to him. Thank you for watching. If the story touched you, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next upload. Leave a comment below sharing your thoughts. Your voice helps inspire others in our community. See you in the next story.